Math 114 in quantitative reasoning. Unit 8 is all about percentages and ratios. Quick view of these notes. Now this is going to look pretty basic, okay? But what we're focusing on is actually applying this. So a few things I want you to know is that in order to convert fractions to proportions, we're just going to divide, put it in a calculator. Proportions or decimals can be turned into percents by multiplying by 100 or moving 2 decimal places. And then the other thing is I want you to remember that is over of is our default here. If we see it of, we're gonna usually put that on the bottom. And the other thing is we're gonna usually put the whole on the bottom as well. So these are our setups. Let's go ahead and jump right into some problems. All right, we've got some ratios in words. These are some basic ones. 33 out of 100. That's a ratio in words, but we could write that as a fraction as 33 over 100. So as a decimal, if we type that in our calculator, we get 0.33. As a percent, we get that 33%. When we look at 55 out of 100, or 0.55, as a percent, again, we just move it 2 decimal places. So we say 55%. And as a fraction, we could write it as 55 out of 100. Now, if we had to simplify that fraction, we could do it, okay? Because we could take 5 out of the top and bottom, and that would give us 11 over 20, which is our simplified form. 33 over 100, we didn't need to simplify because nothing went into both of them. 12 out of 100, okay? As a fraction, we could obviously write 12 out of 100, but we could also simplify because we could take a 4 out of the top and bottom, and that would give us 3 out of 25. Oh, not 24, 25. Now, as a decimal, we want to think back at that 12 out of 100 means we're going to put it 0.12, and as a percent, that's going to be 12%. Okay, so working in and out of fractions and decimals, we sometimes have to do the extra step of simplifying the fraction, but it's pretty straightforward. This is an example of the type of solving an unknown value in a percent proportion. So the setup is going to be part over whole equals percent over 100. So let's start just by saying we have part, we have percent. So let's fill it in. We have 10 over whole equals percent is 2 over 100. So the part I don't have is whole. So I'm going to put an X right here. That's the part I don't have. And now we're going to solve this proportion like we do any other proportion. I'm going to go ahead and multiply these, and I'm going to get 2x equals 1,000. And then I'm going to divide by 2, and I get x equals 500. So remember, we're multiplying diagonally, the ones that aren't a variable, and then we go ahead and divide by our coefficient there. Let's try it again. This time we're finding the whole, okay, just like last time. And we know that the part is 63. So I know that's on top. And the percent is 15. And percents are always over 100. So what I don't know is I don't know this whole. So I'm going to cross multiply and divide. And so if I do that, what I'm going to get is x equals 6,300 divided by 15. And then if it wanted as a decimal, I could go ahead and just type that in as a decimal and get it my answer. Pay attention to what you're looking for on this. If you're looking for a decimal or a fraction, just pay attention to what it's wanting. For this one, it looks maybe like a little bit different setup, but I want you to notice we have 160%. So we're still going to go 160 over 100. We have percent. And then it says of 300 miles. So we need to match up that percent side over here. So where are we going to put the 300? Well, our trigger word is that of, okay? The of kind of gives us a hint that the 300 is what matches up with the bottom, okay? 300 would match up with 100. So now we go ahead and put an X on top. From there, we can cross multiply and divide, and we end up with X equals 480. This is another one that scares people. We get this word problem and go, oh no, we're doing 2.5% and we're depositing it into a retirement plan, and then we have amount per month. This is going to be one of those financial formulas, but actually this is a very simple problem. we're looking at this just like we've looked at the other problems. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to say 2.5%. So I'm going to say 2.5 divided by 100. And then I need to put the 210 either on top or on bottom. And so the question is 210 the part or the whole? So if we read the question now, Eileen has 2.5% of her earnings deposited into a retirement plan. 210 is deposited into a retirement plan. So if she's depositing the 2.5, then and that's 210, it matches up. It's not all the money she makes. It's just the amount of money she's depositing. And so we're going to put our X down here. And again, we're going to cross multiply and divide, and we'll get our answer. Our answer will be in dollars. Pay attention to the way you want to round it. Watch out for dollars and cents. So this would end up being 21,000 divided by 2.5. If it's looking for, I'd probably just type this in a calculator to get my decimal, and pay attention to which decimal place I need to round to. This problem, we have 14,157 new products, and 78% of the products failed, okay? And then we want to know the percent that were successful, or sorry, the number that were successful. We know the percent that failed. 78% failed. And so since we're asking about successful, rather than write down the 78 over 100, we want to find the success percentage. Now the good thing is we know that failure and success, they're just two options. And so those two options mean that we have 100 minus 78 equals 22. So success percent is 22%. So we tried to trip you up by just giving you the opposite of what you needed. We gave you the failure instead of the success. So we can go ahead and write 22 over 100. And we set that equal to, and now I have to decide, is this just the products that failed, or was it the whole products? Was it all of them? And yeah, it's actually the big number. It's the whole number of products. And then I can put an X right there. Again, I can cross multiply and divide, so I can go ahead and multiply 22 times 14,157 and divide by 100. When we're looking at this one, again, it looks a little scarier than it is, okay? We have purchased shares, and we purchased the shares for $5,800. And then we sold them for $11,400. And what we want is the total and annual returns. So let's do total returns first. So we started with $5,800 and we sold them for $11,400. So when we talk about returns, what we're talking about is profit. So my return is not $11,400 because that's not what I profited. That's what I had when I sold them. But I need to subtract the amount I paid. So I'm going to take the $11,400 minus the $5,800. And let's see what that gives me. $5,600. And so that's $5,600 as my returns. So I made some money. Now, I made some money over 20 years. So overall, it's still good. Let's see what our total return would be. When we do total return, it's about our percent increase. Remember, our formula would be old on the bottom, and then the difference on the top. So new minus old. And so we saw that formula at the beginning. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and take my difference. I made $5,600, and I started with $5,800. And so if I just go ahead and set that up, I want to know, with what I started with, 100%, what percent return did I get? And so I got something good. I got something like 90, we'll just say 96%. I'm rounding a little bit, 96% as my X. If I go ahead and solve that. Now the question actually says 20 years after purchasing shares in a mutual fund. So I didn't get 96. I didn't double my money every year. It took me 20 years to double my money. And so the way we find an annual return is we need to take that 96. So we went from 100% to 196% over the course of 20 years. And so the way we're going to calculate this is we're going to say in decimal form. I'm going to clean up just a little bit so I have plenty of room to work here. Let's see. We're going to say we got 1.96 as our result after 20 years. And so if we want to go backwards, what we want to do is our formula looks something like this. 1 plus the rate to the nth power, the number of years. And so if we think backwards, how do we find out the rate? Well, what are we going to do is we're going to take the root of it. So in this case, we took 20 years. So if we want to work backwards, we're going to take the 20th root of 1.96. Okay, so I'm going to get out my calculator on my phone and I'm going to type that in. If you're unsure how to use like a basic calculator and type that in, one thing we can do, that's the same thing as typing in 1.96 to the 1/20th. I don't want all 20 years, I just want 1/20th of the years. So that's why we do that. So I've got my phone calculator here. Let's see. 1.96. And then I got to turn my phone sideways to get the more advanced calculations. And then I'm not just going to press the square root button. I'm going to raise it to the 1/20th power. And what I got is about 1.034. In other words, as a percent, what were my annual returns? My annual returns were 3% annually. A farmer recently purchased her neighbor's farm. Before the purchase, the farmer owned a total of 355 acres of land. After the purchase, she owned 496 acres of land. What is the percent increase? Now, when we talk about percent increase, it's a percent of change. We need to make sure the number we put on top of our fraction is the amount of change. So she started with 355. She had 496. We're not just going to put 496 on top. That is the final amount, but that's not how much it changed. We have to subtract what she started with. And then we always divide by the original amount. And then that will give us a decimal, okay? Now, since it asked for percent, then we're going to have to do something to turn that decimal into a percent. So we have 0.3971. If I wanted to turn that into a percent, I'd need to move this 2 decimal places or just simply multiply by 100. So 39.71%. Try a couple of these on your own. Feel free to throw your answers down in the comments, okay? First one, we have 86 problems on a test that we got right, and we got a 98. So how many test questions were there? There's obviously more than 86 because we didn't get all 100%. We also have one where we have that Manuel found a wrecked Trans Am, and he knew he could fix it, so he bought it, and he bought it for 65% of the original price. So what did he pay for the car? So he didn't pay $7,200. We need to find out what 65% of that original price would be. Make sure you give me an answer in dollars. Throw it down in the comments, and you can see if other people agree. What do you want to learn next? Let me know.